We are right at the doorstep of that. Okay?
Again, demonic. It sounds demonic.
Welcome to Rogan Recap Show, where we squeeze a 1 hour and 30 minutes into about 15 minutes so you catch the big ideas, the wild moments, and the takeaways in one quick hit. This week, Joe welcomes back Dr. Robert Malone, the controversial inventor of mRNA vaccine technology. 5 years after their last explosive conversation, Malone returns to discuss everything from the weaponization of psychology to the true story behind Ivermectin suppression and the terrifying future of biotechnology. If you've ever wondered how propaganda truly works or what the real endgame of advanced biotech could be, this recap is your fast track to understanding the signal without the noise. Malone kicks off by reflecting on the sheer backlash he and Joe faced after their last conversation. He recounts how his own doctor questioned his stupidity for taking the vaccine, despite his expertise. Malone, who holds patents on mRNA technology, explains why he was initially amazed by the COVID vaccines, believing they had solved the fundamental issues he encountered in his early research. But he quickly details the core problem he always saw: inflammation and the inability to localize the mRNA. Early in his work, it was incredibly inflammatory in animal models, leading to aggressive white cell infiltrates.
It was incredibly inflammatory. It didn't give long prolonged levels of expression. It was hard to make. It's kind of, back then, it was almost a little bit of witchcraft. You'd drop, for me as a graduate student when I was doing that, it was incredibly scary because it was a couple $1,000s worth of reagents in a little tiny tube. And, back in the late 80s, that was real money. And it didn't always work, the reaction. So, it was a little bit of a wing and a prayer. But then as I started working with animal models and with the different formulations, I could come up with a variety of different compounds and formulations that worked pretty well in cell culture, but not so well in animals. And I spent a lot of time trying to do that, optimize that, and what I ended up with is just seeing that it really caused, I'm sorry to use medical jargon. That's kind of where I'm from, so that's the language I know.
No, it's probably better if you do.
It caused a lot of inflammation. White cell infiltrates, really aggressive white cell infiltrates, in my hands, in both mice and monkeys. And I'd abandoned it as something that just, was useful in research, particularly in cell culture.
He explains that the magic sauce for localization, developed by Peter Cullis, involved polyethylene glycol or PG, essentially antifreeze. This was supposed to keep the vaccine localized, but Malone's own adverse reaction and that of others suggests otherwise. Next, the conversation turns to the controversial suppression of repurposed drugs like ivermectin. Malone, who experimented on himself with famotidine, an antacid, after getting COVID, describes how his team secured funding to research repurposed drugs, but faced inexplicable resistance from the FDA. Despite ivermectin being a Nobel Prize-winning drug, off-patent, and showing efficacy, it was demonized. Malone suggests the why boils down to the financial threat it posed to the emergency use authorization of new highly profitable vaccines.
Medication.
The only two threads that I can pull on it all is that ivermectin is a miracle drug. Nobel Prize, right?
Right.
We don't understand completely how it works. In this case, it doesn't seem to be working as an antiviral. It seems to be working as an immune stimulant. Pro-inflammatory threads that I can pull on it all is that ivermectin, a whole other thing. But you
that's
mentioned,
crazy.
But so the why.
One medication.
The only two threads that I can pull on it all is that ivermectin is a miracle drug. Nobel Prize, right?
Right.
We don't understand completely how it works. In this case, it doesn't seem to be working as an antiviral. It seems to be working as an immune stimulant, pro-inflammatory or pro-immune response in some way that's subtle. Because it has this broad spectrum of activity against things that have an immune response component in controlling. But it's off patent.
Right.
They don't understand it. It's off patent, and the response is as if it represents a significant threat to some business interests. It's hard to discern that. And you mentioned Z-Pak. So that's another fascinating one. And to say that it was only ivermectin was the most prominent, but they were actually effective in shutting down the Z-Pak, the use of hydroxychloroquine.
The greatest upward transfer of wealth in modern history occurred during COVID, not just from vaccines but from lockdowns and stimulus packages. Malone argues this economic incentive fueled the suppression of any alternative. Joe asks Malone to re-explain mass formation psychosis, a term that broke the internet after their last chat. Malone, clarifying the term as crowd formation, describes how socially isolated individuals become vulnerable to manipulation by a leader offering a solution to their pain. This concept, rooted in 20th century psychology on totalitarianism, highlights how people attach to a strong leader, fulfilling their need to belong, and becoming highly susceptible to propaganda.
The core of it is that when people, to make it simple, become disassociated from society and from each other, they become extremely vulnerable to manipulation of a variety of different types. And a leader can come into that environment and offer, to simplify it, offer a solution to their pain, because being isolated, socially isolated, is associated with pain. We as human beings have a need to connect with others. It's a fundamental aspect of being human. It's what you do. I mean, you connect. That's the essence of the Joe Rogan Experience, I think. So we need to connect with others. And in certain situations where people are threatened, and in particular in the modern era where we have all of these things that drive us into isolation, most notably our electronic tools, we become disassociated from our community. And when that happens, we have a strong need to become associated with community, and a leader can come into that environment and basically say, I have the solution to your pain, your psychological pain. And what will happen is a strange phenomenon where people will, rather than building social networks, let's say horizontally to those around them, they'll attach to this strong leader, and they'll get fulfillment for that need to belong by this attachment to that leader and following the edicts of that leader. And this leads to this phenomena that gives rise, enables totalitarianism, but gives rise to this whole cluster of things that Matthias described that he uses the term.
Malone then escalates this, stating that modern psychology has been weaponized. He asserts that tools like nudge technology, digital avatars, and AI-crafted messaging, originally developed by intelligence communities for fifth-generation warfare, are now deployed by governments against their own citizens. He points to a 2015 Obama presidential directive that established U.S. nudge units, still in place today. The conversation takes another dark turn as Malone discusses current global threats. He reveals a breaking news story about a Spanish lab, collaborating with the USDA, doing gain-of-function research on African swine fever virus. A lab leak in November led to dead wild hogs around the facility, devastating Spain's pork industry and mirroring the Wuhan scenario. Malone warns that the WHO's push for decentralized pathogen research facilities globally increases this risk. But perhaps most chilling is the discussion on artificial wombs and transhumanism. Malone reveals that a lamb has already been grown in an artificial womb, and he warns of the implications for genetic engineering, custom-built humans, and the demonic future depicted in films like Gattaca. He questions the psychological impact on children grown without maternal contact, drawing parallels to extreme early childhood isolation.
Oh boy,
I don't know who made this. I was
creepy.
trying to figure out who made this. I don't think the company who
Oh,
was
this
doing
is
it
so
made it, but they
creepy.
might have.
Yeah, I'm not BSing. I mean, doesn't this look like it's something straight out of the Matrix?
100%.
This is all 3D.
Oh
Obviously.
my!
It's not real,
Obviously,
but,
it's not real, but oh my God, this is terrifying.
This is a business model.
Like, what kind of psychology does this child have with no exposure to its mother?
Hey, But
for the 9
for
months while it's in
mom,
this
for
thing.
mom, it's a lot more convenient,
But
and
it's-
she can get the perfect baby that she wants. What's not to
Until
like
it
here,
becomes
Joe?
a fucking serial killer. Yeah.
And you put it on SSRIs.
Well, this is the thing about. Do you know the story about Ted Kaczynski? One of the stories, one
Tell me,
of the things
teach
that
me.
happened to him. In the Netflix documentary, they go into this. He was very sick when he was a boy, when he was a baby, and they kept him in this nursery with no contact with human beings for a long time. For a long time, no one picked him up when he cried. He just sat in this crib, with no contact with his mother, nothing.
Yeah.
And he, from then on, I mean, his brother always described him as just like off.
Yeah.
Just off.
Yeah.
He never had that
Early stage neural development is amazing and profound. And by the way, this loops back to the vaccine story. When we're doing all these jabs on these little tiny.
This episode hit some heavy notes and the language reflected it. Joe and Malone dropped a few F-bombs and other choice words, earning it a full Gordon Ramsay. From weaponized psychology to bioweapons, artificial wombs, and even UAPs, this conversation plunged into the deepest, darkest corners of modern reality and future tech. We're giving it a Beyond Wonderland 9 out of 10. Dr. Malone, despite the controversial topics, remained remarkably articulate and consistent, even when discussing the most mind-bending concepts. His explanations were clear, grounded in his experience, and sometimes terrifyingly logical. If decoding the weaponization of information and the future of humanity without burning an hour and a half of your day sounds like a win, then you know what to do. Hit like so other time-poor Rogan fans can find this essential recap. Also, be sure to subscribe for more 15-minute breakdowns of every JRE episode, from stand-up legends to heavyweight scientists to full-tilt conspiracy theorists. We break it all down for you. Let us know in the comments, what was the most shocking revelation for you in this episode? And remember, you can find the link to the full Joe Rogan Experience episode and all of Dr. Malone's work in the description below. Dr. Robert Malone's primary platform for his work today is his Substack, where he publishes essays almost daily, diving deep into the topics discussed here and many more. He also mentioned his book, Psyops, which explores the weaponization of psychology, and another major work, Lies My Government Told Me, which expands on the themes of censorship and information control. You can find links to his Substack and books in the description if you want to explore his insights further. He's also actively involved with HHS and the State Department, working on vaccine policy and bioweapons treaties, offering his expertise from inside the system. This episode with Dr. Robert Malone wasn't just a recap. It was a stark warning about the weaponization of information, the erosion of trust, and the accelerating pace of biotechnological change. It painted a picture where profit and control often overshadow public health and ethical considerations, pushing humanity into uncharted and potentially demonic territory. It leaves us wondering, can we truly reclaim control over information and technology once it's been weaponized? And what moral lines are we willing to cross in the pursuit of convenience, profit, or even perceived progress? Beyond these weekly recaps, we also produce Rogan Deep Dives, comprehensive, 30-minute anthologies that synthesize high-impact clips from various JRE episodes. These deep dives offer a structured, entertaining narrative on recurring themes like aliens, DMT, or ancient civilizations, giving you Joe Rogan's full perspective on the topics that matter most. We'll be teasing our next deep dive soon, so make sure you're subscribed. If you enjoyed this recap, hit that like button and subscribe for more signal without the noise. All links, including the full episode, guest information, and our community poll, are waiting for you in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next recap.